The great search for Wonka bars continues.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family. Spare him his life from this monstrosity by allowing him to win a ticket to tour a chocolate factory.
She's my revolutionary, non-pollutionary mechanical wonder.
Charlie's life of grinding poverty may just turn around thanks to Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory.
Never doubt what nobody is sure about.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was director Mel Stewart's 1971 kids' comedy musical adaptation of Roald Dahl's book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The film was not a success on its original release, but something happened along the way to the point where the film is now hailed as a classic. That doesn't really help you if you had money in it back in 1971.
You must remember there are many more important things. Offhand, I can't think of what they are, but I'm sure there must be something.
Charlie Bucket was a poor boy whose family are so poor that his poor mother feeds the poor family cabbage water. He and his mother live with their 4 bedridden grandparents who share the same chamber pot. So, at the very least, they do actually have a pot to piss in. So, cabbage water and grandparents, that's literal grossvater. Then pandemonium strikes as the proprietor of the local chocolate factory, Willy Wonka, announces a contest where 5 golden tickets have been included in Wonka candy bars. Whoever finds these tickets will be given a tour of the mysterious Wonka factory. Willy Wonka had been driven paranoid by constant industrial espionage and had shut the factory down a few years earlier, later reopening it, except no one's ever seen anybody entering or leaving the place. The golden tickets see everybody and anybody losing their minds in the frenzy.
It's your husband's life or your case of Wonka bars.
How long will it give me to think it over?
Wonka bars instantly became more valuable than gold, with sales going through the roof, which is not a good thing if you're in the upstairs apartment. As a way to sell chocolate bars, this was a genius marketing campaign from Wonka's advertising people at Sterling Cooper, who of course were still recovering from the end of their business relationship with Lucky Strike. One by one, the tickets are found by lucky kids from around the world.
Just in case you're wondering, you can count me out.
But poor Charlie Bucket is too poor to buy chocolate bars. He gets one for a birthday present.
I've got the same chance as anybody else, haven't I?
You got more, Charlie, because you wanted more.
But of course there's no ticket. And then it looks as though all 5 tickets had been found. But then the last one proves to be a forgery. Charlie found some money in a drain and bought himself some chocolate. With the demand now having returned to normal, Charlie clearly bought the dip. Except, what's this? This lucky but poor SOB gets the final gold ticket. Charlie asks his bedridden Grandpa Joe to accompany him on the tour. His response, a musical number. We never see the deleted scenes of his family disappointingly asking why he's only able to perform a musical number now and not when they were Eurovision finalists. The fateful day arrives with Wonka finally revealing himself. He welcomes his guests. Veruca Salt was a bratty kid whose father had ordered workers at his peanut company to shell hundreds of thousands of Wonka bars in order for her to find a ticket. Augustus Gloop would eat anything and everything. Violet Beauregard was a precocious chronic gum chewer, and Mike TV was obsessed with watching violent television shows.
Wait till I get a real one. Colt 45.
Not till you're 12, son.
And then there's Charlie and Grandpa Joe, who at no stage seems remotely infirm. So I guess all of those years in the bed were either a scam or he just really preferred it if somebody else emptied the pot.
Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous.
Within the factory, the weirdness and wonders begin. Of course, a big part of that weirdness is their glib host, who, if anyone was paying attention to what he was actually saying, really does manage to be quite creepy without appearing to be all that creepy.
I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
But he's quite creepy.
I never saw anybody with an orange face before.
The factory is staffed by the Oompa Loompas, little orange people who were being eaten by predators back home and were offered the chance to live in the factory. And of course, work in the factory. I mean, Wonka's not carrying passengers. The Oompa Loompas also like to take breaks for song and dance numbers. I mean, it's not necessarily that great for productivity, but it does improve morale, or at least it did until Wonka started tracking their song and dance breaks.
I don't like the look of it.
Each of the ticket winners had been approached by Wonka's rival, Slugworth. He'd each made them an offer. If they could get the secret of Wonka's everlasting gobstoppers, then he would make them rich.
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
One by one, the children's greed will lead them astray. Augustus Gloop will fall into a chocolate river and is sucked up by a pipe. Violet Beauregard tries an experimental chewing gum against Wonka's advice.
Violet, you're turning violet, Violet!
And ends up turning into a giant blueberry.
Hey, Daddy, I want a golden goose.
Veruca Salt demands one of Wonka's golden geese.
I want it now!
and ends up falling into a garbage chute.
Stop, don't come back.
And Mike TV ends up being miniaturized after a matter transmitter isn't quite ready for humans. Charlie and Grandpa Joe aren't immune to playing up when they sneakily take a swig of an experimental soda and are nearly pureed by a fan. Having run out of kids, Wonka abruptly ends the tour.
Did we do something wrong?
Citing a clause in the fine print, he nullifies Charlie's win thanks to the incident with the soda.
So you get nothing. You lose.
Now, I understand Wonka's point of view. They still talk about that one time down at the Mentos factory where I spilled a can of Diet Coke. Oh man, that mess took ages to clean up. You had to scrub the place from top to bottom. Internally, the company calls a cleanup like that a fresh maker.
I can't take much more of this.
But while Grandpa Joe defended Charlie, it was Charlie's act of humility that was the whole point of the exercise. It was all a test. Wonka was casting for a replacement, and Charlie will be it, with all the candy that he'll ever want. At least until the onset of juvenile diabetes.
Any good?
Roald Dahl's 1964 book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, would eventually become one of the most popular books for children published in the 20th century.
Where is fancy bread? In the heart or in the head?
Dahl had written a lot of successful children's novels, often with a darker twist, as well as material aimed at older audiences. In the late 60s, it adapted Ian Fleming's novels You Only Live Twice and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for their film versions, but he'd also have a go at translating Charlie and the Chocolate Factory into a script. Usually when a popular book is turned into a movie, it's because a producer gets a brainwave along the lines of, "That book is a bestseller, let's make a film version and it will do boffo box office." Director Mel Stewart's young daughter had read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and she had a brainwave. "Make that book into a movie and it will do boffo box office." Man, she really needs to stop reading Daily Variety.
What's that for?
Gives it a little kick.
Stewart's friend and colleague, producer David Wolper, agreed that it could make a good kids' film, particularly since he was at the time talking to the Quaker Oats company about doing something that could be used to promote a new candy-making company, Breaker Confections. Quaker would buy the rights off Dahl, finance the film, and Breaker Confections would launch a candy called a Wonka Bar just before the film's release. I'm pretty sure I've passed a pub that you could call a Wonka Bar. I mean, it's right next to the stock exchange, and on Friday night, it's usually full of half-cut right Wonkas. The film would be filmed in Munich in West Germany over the course of 1970, with the city's architecture giving the streets near Charlie's home a slightly unreal atmosphere. Unless, of course, you lived in Munich, in which case,
We have so much time and so little to see. Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it.
Interiors were shot at Bavaria Studios, with most of the speaking roles given to actors from the US and Britain. Roald Dahl was to have written the script on his own, but a late delivery saw Stewart bringing David Seltzer and other writers to get the script ready for shooting. The changes and additions, it did not sit well with Dahl, who disliked the final product, and indeed there were no more adaptations of the book until after his passing. The Oompa Loompas were changed to make them less like slaves, and the film's title changed to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, mainly because that was part of the tie-in deal with the newly launched Wonka candy bar. My own attempt to launch a tie-in candy bar for this channel, the Stam Fine Custard Mustard Bar, was an abject failure even after we tweaked the formula to have 20% more mustard and 30% less custard. But then the name change to Mustard Custard Bar just made things worse. Also, there was the lingering problem that either version of the recipe still tasted like bad acid reflux.
Spitting's a dirty habit.
I know a worse one.
Character actor Jack Albertson had a very long career, and in this film manages to show us the invalid grandfather who totally has not been faking it all of these years. Though, if I'm honest, I have been taking notes and studying his technique, just in case it ever proves useful.
I bet those golden tickets make the chocolate taste terrible.
Peter Ostrum won the coveted role of Charlie, a kid who's been dealt a lousy hand, born into grinding poverty. Though, of course, it's comedy grinding poverty.
We'll have a real banquet.
He is still an optimist, though all too often he gets a pretty harsh reminder of reality. But he finds a ticket, and out of the 5 ticket holders, he's the one who blots his copybook the least. He's got the humility and the sense of right and wrong, and that's what allows him to get what he always wanted, while the greedy, selfish, gluttonous and obnoxious kids all end up doing themselves out of a life-changing opportunity.
Well, you're dead.
Wonderful to meet you, Mike.
The other child actors also play their roles quite well. They played the archetypes of the most extreme kids you knew growing up.
I want an everlasting gobstopper. Me too. And me.
The spoiled rich kid, the intense competitive one, the glutton, or the incredibly obnoxious kid who watched way too much television. Oh, come on, that's uncalled for.
You like the killings, huh?
What do you think life's all about?
Most of the other adults managed to pitch their characters at just the right level. Not super serious, but not over the top. It's also very nice to see people like Roy Kinnear and Tim Brooke Taylor.
I am now telling the computer exactly what he can do with a lifetime supply of chocolate.
The search for the title character took a while before they eventually landed on Gene Wilder. He wanted to play Wonka with a hint of danger and would not accept the role unless he was allowed to play him that way.
The strawberries taste like strawberries. The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Wonka has the air of a genial host, but is also quite sarcastic.
Stop. Don't.
And is less likely to answer a straight question than a hyper-intelligent dog who insists that he did not pee on your kitchen floor.
Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker.
Wonka doesn't appear for the first 25 or so minutes of the film, by which time he's been built up into this mysterious character, one who put all of his employees out of work because somebody else might find out his secrets. Thanks, Willy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Willy Wonka is a funny film, one that has a little more bite than most of the movies aimed at kids. The escalating frenzy of the ticket hunt shows humanity losing a little bit of their souls over a tour of a damn chocolate factory.
Shut up, Hofstadter, and tell me where the ticket is.
The film's production design can be a little hit-miss. Most of it works, though some parts of the factory do look a little cheap in places, which was something that was picked up by some reviewers of the day. Most of the time, though, it does look great, with vibrant colours and eccentric designs. And this movie is not afraid to scare young viewers at times. I mean, you generally don't see a chicken's head being cut off in a kids' movie. Well, not a good kids' movie.
The suspense is terrible.
He's gonna go this time.
I hope it'll last.
It is a musical, and I as a young boy wasn't typically a fan of musicals. But this and the Blues Brothers got a pass. The songs by Leslie Bricusse and Anthony Newley don't follow the typical pattern of a musical. Well, they do in the first 30 or so minutes of the film, where the characters will break out into song a few times. Charlie's mother, Grandpa Joe, the fellow at the candy store, and of course Willy himself when they reach the chocolate room. But aside from Veruca Salt's big number, the only other songs in the latter part of the movie are the ditties sung by the Oompa Loompas, who lament the personality shortcomings of the kids who have fallen by the wayside.
Would you roll the young lady down to the juicing room at once, please?
Pure imagination is the film's theme, whether it's sung or heard as an instrumental. But back in the day, the film's main contribution to pop culture was Sammy Davis Jr.'s recording of The Candyman, which became his only #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Disney almost had a lock on kids' films in the 70s, though there were other studios still taking a punt on a kids' movie. Paramount distributed the film, but on its release only made slightly more than the film's original budget. Now, it's wild to see a movie that is as beloved as this that was actually considered a flop back in the day. The company making the Wonka chocolate was later sold several times, rebranded even more times, and for a while was even named the Willy Wonka Candy Company.
Good day, sir.
Because the movie had not been a huge success, no one really cared, so it became the sort of movie that would be played on television on the weekend or in the afternoon, and because it was a fun movie, it would be played a lot. Now, I would hazard a guess that that is how most people knew the film, from a television broadcast. But over the years, that unsuccessful kids movie that was often dumped in matinee movie slots would become something bigger. It's not unusual for something to have tanked at the box office to find an appreciative audience down the road, but the turnaround here is something to behold. Now, it doesn't always happen, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cut my losses and buried 3 tons of unsold mustard custard candy bars in my neighbour's backyard. Look, I think I got away with it, just as long as he never puts in a swimming pool. Paramount's distribution rights to the film lapsed and were later picked up by Warner Brothers. Later on, that studio would mount several Wonka projects. First, there was a 2005 adaptation of the book from Tim Burton. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory starred Johnny Depp, Christopher Lee, and Freddie Highmore. That is a film that many dislike. I don't mind it so much as it's a different take on the story, but I also loved Danny Elfman's song in that movie. And of course, Deep Roy playing all of the Oompa Loompas. There was also an animated version of the story starring Tom and Jerry. I would ask, but I've been told don't ask, so I won't ask. And I invite you also to not ask, since I don't think any of you really want to know the answer. And more recently, a prequel movie that has its own charm, but is quite definitely a musical first and foremost, with a songbook so thick it would choke an elephant. Those other projects have their fans, and like anything, they're not so fans. But I've enjoyed most of them to some extent, with the exception of the Tom and Jerry film, mainly because the urge to not ask overrode any lingering curiosity. As for the reality contest show with the AI Gene Wilder, yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one. There was also my own unlicensed horror film adaptation of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but of course due to copyright issues I had to make some alterations. Billy Bonkers and the Abattoir was poised to start filming, but financing fell through at the last minute due to concerns over the script. That and the fact that horror films generally aren't the best place to sell tie-in meatballs.
This little piece of gum is a 3-course dinner.
Bull. No, roast beef, but I haven't got it quite right yet.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory has some dance numbers and some songs. It has some whimsical fantasy, some great comedic barbs, and a lot of heart. It did take a while, but over time the film has found a special place in the hearts of viewers, and yet it's only one of several fantastic performances from Gene Wilder. If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.